It was a seemingly ordinary Sunday afternoon in Lexington, Kentucky, a day that promised the usual rhythms of community and faith. A day meant for peace, reflection, and spiritual connection, a time for families to gather and share in their beliefs. But that tranquility was brutally shattered by unimaginable violence, a stark intrusion of horror into a sacred space. In just minutes, a quiet church, a cornerstone of its community, a place of solace and worship, became the scene of a tragedy, a maelstrom of fear and devastation that no one could have foreseen. A tragedy that shocked an entire community, leaving behind a trail of grief, disbelief, and unanswered questions. The ripple effects of this event will undoubtedly be felt for years to come. The man at the center of it all, Guy House, age 47. A name already familiar to local police, a man with a history that hinted at the potential for such a devastating act. He was supposed to face a judge to answer for past actions and face the consequences of his behavior. Specifically, for a domestic violence hearing, a charge that underscored a pattern of aggression and control. The hearing was scheduled for the very next day, a date that would never arrive for him in the way it was intended. But instead of showing up in court to face the legal system and the charges against him, he stormed into Richmond Road Baptist Church, his intentions far from peaceful. He was desperate and dangerous, a volatile force on the verge of explosion. He was looking for the mother of his 3 kids, the woman at the center of his domestic dispute, the target of his rage. But she wasn't there, fatefully absent from the scene of impending violence. And in a moment that witnesses say, a moment etched forever in their memories, felt frozen in time, a pregnant pause before the storm, a chilling premonition of what was to come. House looked out at the congregation, his eyes scanning the faces, searching for his intended target, and said coldly, his voice devoid of emotion, a chilling declaration of his intent. "Well, someone's gonna have to die then," a statement that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it, a promise of violence about to be unleashed. And then he opened fire, shattering the peace and unleashing a wave of terror. The chaos was instant, a scene of pandemonium as people scrambled for safety, their screams echoing through the sanctuary. 2 women, innocent victims caught in the crossfire of a personal vendetta. Beverly Gum, 72, a beloved member of the church community, a woman of faith and kindness. And Christina Combs, just 32, a young life full of promise, cut short by senseless violence. Both lost their lives inside a place, a sanctuary meant to offer protection and spiritual nourishment. A place they thought was safe, a haven from the troubles of the world now stained with blood and sorrow. Their husbands, now widowers, grappling with unimaginable loss and the trauma of witnessing such horror. Jerry Gum, the church's longtime pastor, a pillar of the community, now mourning the loss of his wife and the violation of his sacred space. And Randy Combs, forever bound to this tragedy, both physically and emotionally scarred. Both were shot, victims of a senseless act of violence that reverberated far beyond the walls of the church. One clung to life in critical condition, his fate hanging in the balance, his family and community praying for a miracle. The other, miraculously, was stable, a testament to resilience and the power of hope amidst despair. But House's rampage didn't start at the church. The church shooting was just the culmination of a series of violent acts. Just before the massacre, a chain of events unfolded that painted a picture of a man spiraling out of control. Police say he was pulled over, a routine traffic stop that quickly escalated into something far more dangerous. The stop occurred near Lexington's airport, a location that would soon be linked to a series of violent crimes. He shot at a state trooper, a brazen act of defiance and violence that put law enforcement on high alert. He carjacked a vehicle, stealing a car from an innocent bystander, adding another layer of criminality to his escalating rampage. And then sped off 16 miles, leading police on a high-speed chase through the city streets. Straight to the church, his final destination, the place where he would unleash the full extent of his rage. This was not his first clash with the law. His history was marred by a series of offenses that hinted at a troubled past. House had a rap sheet, a long list of prior arrests and convictions that painted a disturbing picture. That read like a warning, a series of red flags that, in retrospect, seemed to foreshadow the tragedy to come. Including firearm possession as a felon, a charge that highlighted his disregard for the law and his access to deadly weapons. Wanton endangerment, a charge that spoke to his reckless behavior and his willingness to put others at risk. Theft, a crime that suggested a pattern of disregard for the property and rights of others. Fleeing police, an indication of his resistance to authority and his willingness to evade capture. Even being Crime Stoppers' wanted person. a dubious distinction that highlighted his status as a fugitive from justice. Of the week back in 2022, a time when he was actively sought by law enforcement for his alleged crimes. Online, he called himself Honky Kong, an alias that offered a glimpse into his online persona and his state of mind, posting selfies and glimpses, snippets of his life shared on social media, offering clues to his inner turmoil. Of a troubled life, a life marked by instability, anger, and a growing sense of desperation. The dust has barely settled, the investigation is still ongoing, and the community is reeling from the shock of what has transpired. Kentucky's governor has called for prayers, urging citizens to come together in support of the victims and their families. The state attorney general called it a moment of profound sorrow and a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Shock invading the Lord's house. A powerful statement that captured the sense of violation and disbelief that gripped the community. But even as the community mourns, even as they grieve the loss of innocent lives and struggle to make sense of the senseless, one question lingers. A question that haunts the minds of everyone touched by this tragedy. What drives someone to turn? What pushes a human being to commit such an unspeakable act of violence? A place of sanctuary, a place of worship, a place of peace, into a scene of unimaginable horror, into a scene of horror, a place of death and destruction, a place forever scarred by the events of that fateful Sunday. And here's what I want to know. The question that burns in my mind, and I suspect, in the minds of many others. If warning signs were there, if there were indications of his potential for violence, why wasn't this tragedy stopped? Why weren't measures taken to prevent this horrific event from unfolding? Before it began, before the first shot was fired, before the lives of Beverly Gum and Christina Combs were tragically cut short. Leave your thoughts in the comments, share your perspectives on this tragedy and what could have been done to prevent it. Could this have been prevented? Were there missed opportunities to intervene and change the course of events? Or are we missing the signs? Are we failing to recognize the red flags that could help us prevent future tragedies? Right in front of us, are we so desensitized to violence that we are overlooking the obvious signs of impending danger?